morning. It is Friday, November 8th, 2024. This is Option Pit Live. I am Mark Sebastian, your only option. Licia J. Leslie, Queen of the Candles, is on assignment today, and thus I am joined early by one Viking of Volatility, the Vicar of the Vix, Andrew T. Giovinazzi. Welcome, Andrew. Happy Friday.
Thank you. Happy Friday. I'm fresh from my polar plunge yesterday. Hannah challenged me.
I saw it, and then and I saw it again in my nightmares. So I keep seeing it over and over and over again, and screaming. No, I'm just kidding.
So it's not leaving your mind, is what you're saying.
So interesting day. As we're coming in, the market is slightly positive. My futures program shut down, so give me a second here. But SPY is up, about 20 cents pre-market.
All right.
There we go.
You know what number I'm waiting for?
Yeah. Qs are down 90 cents. What number are you waiting for?
600 for SPY.
Oh, yeah. Well, 6,000 for SPX is right there.
It is tantalizing, isn't it, Mr. Sebastian?
Yeah. Well, S&P futures, which are the tradable version of the SPY or of the SPX, are actually over 6,000. Currently, they're down 2, trading 6,001 spot 75. And even though SPY is up, and that's because they'd rallied a little bit after the bell. And so, they don't exactly line up. Interestingly, though, NASDAQ futures are down a little bit. I don't know if you saw NASDAQ futures are down about 1/4 of a point. The one big earnings from last night that wasn't very good, but seems to be recovering a little more than I thought, was Block Inc. SQ.
Yep.
They missed on earnings really badly. It's only down about $1 on that news, which I think is kind of interesting.
Yeah, I couldn't really I had a hard time. It's always hard for me to figure out what they actually make.
Yeah.
In earnings. It looks like they took some write-downs on some initiatives they were trying, and they are going after sort of, trying to develop their Bitcoin wallet, their crypto wallets. But it still looks like they're on track maybe to make, $4 a share next year, something like that.
Yeah.
So it's one of our Flash 10 stocks. We've been long it from $66 or something. So, I was contemplating rolling the calls up because we had some decent money in there, but I think the payment processors, if the economy is gonna boom and everybody's got some happy feelings, like Square, Visa, MasterCard, Amex, I think I know we have financials on the docket, but I was a little surprised, but it looks like the earnings were good, but they had some write-downs that kind of fluttered the noise.
Now, the other big stock-specific news today is NVIDIA and Sherwin-Williams, who got no press on this, right? Everybody knows NVIDIA is joining the Dow Jones Industrial Average, right? And Intel's out. Nobody's talking about Sherwin-Williams and Dow Chemical for some reason. But Sherwin-Williams is also in, and Dow Chemical is out of the Dow Jones Industrial Average in, another kind of call.
Now, what do you make them on that?
It's a weird one, right? Sherwin-Williams just makes paint, right? Or do they do other things?
Good question. Yeah, mostly paint, but all global paint. Again, that is kind of a global growth story. I guess you could say.
They also do like finishing products, wood preserves, applicators, corrosion inhibitors, aerosols, adhesives, and I forgot they made caulks, but they do.
Do they make? Are
And
they the makers of like DAP and stuff like that? But
yeah. So they make other things now. They're not as wide as like a Dow Chemical.
Yeah, but you
But
know what?
they're 3
$96
times the
billion
size of
dollar
Dow
market
Chemical,
cap.
so it makes sense.
Yeah, I mean, they're wow. You know what's funny? Sherwin-Williams is 3 times the size of Dow
Yeah, I am
market cap.
surprised. I was shocked when I just saw that.
Yeah.
So that is a big one. Now, Andrew, traditionally, this has been a time. This has been a time when stocks pull back. They get added. Everyone, the old story is you get added to the Dow, it's the kiss of death, right?
Yep.
At least not permanently, but for a while, right? Like the next quarter. Do you think that applies to Nvidia and Sherwin-Williams?
I mean, Sherwin-Williams, did you see when the announcement went out? I think went up kind of parabolic lift on that one. Nvidia is a hard one just because it trades at such a huge multiple already. But I mean, everybody's expecting, basically 80, another 80% growth in revenue or some insane number again.
Mm-hmm.
So Nvidia, I would not discount yet. Sherwin-Williams, I mean, again, it looks a little pricey. And then Intel, of course, we've been looking at Intel as a potential comeback play now for what, a year. And every time it tries, it gets punched in the face. But it looks like it might have some legs now.
Intel looks like it has some legs, and the fact that there are buyers for it tells you that it's found the value, right?
Yeah.
As soon as here's the tip. If you're thinking about investing in a beaten down stock and 3 companies are bidding for it or are considering buying it, that's usually a good sign to buy the stock. And Intel has that going for it. So
there's a lot of value there.
Yeah. So now let's kind of circle back and talk about the election. And I don't mean from a political standpoint. I mean from a dollar standpoint. We happen to be very lucky to work with one Frank Gregory, who has his pulse on what is going on in Washington, D.C., who the policy winners are and losers are, right? Washington, D.C. wields trillions and trillions of dollars, and he just he knows where those dollars are flowing to and from based on how administrations are running.
Right.
And, you are going to be presenting with him next Wednesday. If you want to join him, you can. All you have to be is a member of the Power Moves newsletter. So yeah, it's not free for everybody. You have to be a subscriber to his newsletter. That's optionpit.com/power-moves. And you can just sign up for his newsletter. And so you get this amazing event where he's going to walk you through all the different sectors, and you get his analysis multiple times a week on potential ideas. But I thought we could maybe preview a couple of areas on some of these stocks. Obviously, the market exploded. Do you think it? And do you think it was? Here's my take. I think it was because we had an outcome, not so much who won. What are your thoughts there?
Well, I think the fact that we had a smooth outcome was clearly, you and I were talking about this for a month, right? Everybody is sitting and waiting on pins and needles. I likened it to Y2K, which is basically what it ended up being. I don't know if I probably date myself a little bit, but in 2000, everybody thought planes are going to fall out of the sky. It's 1999. Everybody's ready for the big, millennium switch, and Y2K. Everybody became a COBOL programmer or whatever. And there was huge, there was that vol buildup, into
Yeah.
2000, and then the
It
next
was a
day
nothing.
happened, and the planes flew, and the
It was
clocks worked,
nothing.
and it
It
was
was
nothing.
crazy.
Which
Um,
felt like this one. I mean, um, you would have to expect, like, the political parties sort of learned from maybe from the 2020 election. Maybe everybody was a little tighter on their game. Um, People showed up to vote, and the market, you could see the path. If you believe the betting lines, they were starting to get pretty clear for the most part. Very
mhm.
early, the polls weren't, but the betting lines stayed fairly clear. There was a couple of blurbs and stuff. Um, but I agree the fact that there was an outcome. America functioned like it's supposed to, even though there are a couple of states, amazingly, that are still counting. Any state that is still counting votes right now should be like,
The crazy thing is I think Utah is the most behind. Is that right?
it
Um,
is bizarre beyond all comprehension.
it is. I don't understand. I think the mail-in ballots or something.
Yeah.
There's
Like,
some
maybe come up with a
things.
better system.
Yeah. What's funny is like I could put out a poll right now and we'd be done with it in 2 minutes. Now, obviously, it doesn't have the integrity, but it's just I government. The first thing they can do in the Department of Government Efficiency, if it comes to fruition, is quick elections. I think that's what everybody wants.
Yeah,
Um,
and if you want to mail in, sure, mail in vote. You request your ballot, you get it, and you have it mailed the week before the election, and that's the rule,
yeah,
so people can count it. I mean, anyway.
yeah,
So,
yeah.
um,
But so let's take a look at some stocks here that did explode.
but
Two in particular that I think are interesting. Tesla seems kind of obvious,
yeah,
right? Because Elon's involvement.
right.
Do you like Tesla to continue? It made a really nice run. Do you like it to keep moving higher?
Yeah, I mean, to be honest, yeah. We had a trade on in the pro class, and when we had that huge gap, we closed the call spread, but it was funny. It was a 300-340 call spread. It didn't cost very much at the time. And yeah, I mean, as a trade, it worked out fine. Um, I just think Tesla, as like, even before Musk got involved with Trump, like, they're one of the companies that have been doing kind of the AI, robotics, all this kind of stuff. Like, if somebody knows how to commercialize something, like Musk and his group that he has under
Mm-hmm.
him, um, they know how to turn something into a commercial success. So I would expect more robots out of Tesla, self-driving cars. And I know you've been kind of an Uber bull, and you made great, like, you know, great, great early calls on that one when the stock was in the dustbin, right? Because I never used
Yeah.
it, but you use it all the time. You're like, dude, this is something. So, like, the robo taxis could be good for Uber, good for
Yeah.
Tesla. So I'm changing my tune on Uber. Um,
Yeah.
like,
You see,
these are
Lyft
all.
actually is out of the toilet. Looks like it's starting to break out.
So I think there's some real, there is some real, you know, at week, and I think you made an excellent point, Mark. We're just happy there was an outcome, and now we can get back to looking at how to grow.
Right.
Because if we're mired in all this nonsense, it doesn't help anybody.
It doesn't.
So now all of a sudden, you you start looking at Tesla as a growth vehicle and Uber as a growth lift. Okay, all of a sudden, self-driving cars, like the universe. You never know what that universe opens up for. Usually in the US, we have a lot of innovation, and that opens up a lot more businesses. You never know what is going to happen. So I think there's a lot of reasons to be bullish. I'm as long as I could be, pretty much. Um, and have been, like, I don't know, all year, just like personal account never sold. Even, everybody's Biden this and Biden that. Like, for the most part, you have to admit the Fed was pretty friendly to stocks. You did
Yeah.
have inflation, but markets do go up in inflationary environments once once businesses understand what the deal is.
Yeah.
And the Fed did act relatively fast after making mistakes. So anyway, as we say at Option Pit, or probably everywhere now, but it's America, stocks go up. So
Yes.
unless there's a reason for them to go down.
Unless there's a reason. Now, here's another one that was a big winner that I was a little surprised by, was Geo Group. This is that private prison group.
Uh-huh.
And that, I believe, is like a Make America Safe Again play.
Right. Holy gosh.
Yeah, I'm not so sure about this one. I think this one, so it went from 14 to 24, made $10 in 2 days. It's now worth 3.4 billion. I gotta tell you, and let's see what their P&L is. And it currently holds a PE of 107. I don't think they're going to make enough to earn that valuation. Some of these have popped, and sometimes reactions to news events can kind of overreact.
Right.
And you might have that on your hands here in Geo Group, folks.
And I mean, you think about it, like what was the upside sell liquidity for this thing after the election? What was the upside sell liquidity for anything? Nothing. None. Yeah. So I think
what I did want to show everybody is this. So I want to show everybody. So the green line on these charts is where the VIX is, and the top chart is on your left is 2016. This is 3 days before the election. So this is the Friday before the election in 2016. The VIX was a little bit above 22. The November future was 1940. And here is 2024. The VIX was a little bit above 22. And the November future was 1945. And essentially, you have what amounts to the exact same curve structure. Like, it is jaw-dropping, right?
That's a good one, Mark.
It's crazy, right? It is crazy. And then here is the VIX 2 days after the election in 2016. And here's where we were yesterday when I clipped this. So you have the VIX, in this case, the only difference is I took this one before Powell had been speaking. And this one didn't have a Federal Reserve in it, but the shapes of the curve are absolutely, I mean, it is stunning. History doesn't repeat itself, but it echoes. And this is the loudest echo I've seen in terms of markets in a while. It is jaw-dropping.
Well, again, the thing is, so you're talking about, who got elected. Nobody knows exactly what Harris was going to do. I mean, there was some ideas, but like Trump, he was president for 4 years. Like, you figure you're going to see some similarities there. People forget lowest volatility in 20 years was 2017. VIX traded in the 9 handle, like, which nobody would have called, right? Like, nobody would have called him being a single-digit volatility president. So you just have to, keep in mind having historical perspective in how things worked. Hopefully there'll be a little less noise this time. We'll see.
That would be the one thing, is a little less chaos and turnover would be nice.
Yeah.
The FOMC reported yesterday, one of the pieces that I had been saying, if there is going to be a break, traditionally after elections, we get a really nice relief rally. One of the things that did have me worried was the bond market rout that had been going on. And we did have the Federal Reserve that a 1/4 point cut. It basically said, the election doesn't change how I'm approaching things. Nothing changes. I was surprised they asked him this, like, if Donald Trump tries to fire you, will you resign? No. Can Donald Trump fire you? No. It was kind of a weird question.
Well, they're
People
trying to
forget Donald
like they're
Trump was the
stirring
one
the
that put him
pot.
in office.
You know, they're kind
Donald
of
Trump
stirring
was
the
the one that
pot,
put
aren't
him
they?
in the Federal Reserve. I didn't think they disliked each other. Do they?
I don't know. You know, who knows?
So
I
that's a
don't
fair.
think Trump in
Who
general
knows?
is
And Donald
a fan
Trump
of
are
the Federal
maybe
Reserve.
are synonyms.
Huh?
Donald Trump is Latin for who knows.
Yeah, I know. I'm, you know, I don't think he's a giant fan of the Federal Reserve.
Yeah.
But you have to look there. You see that those are two pretty. I don't wish we had Licia here, but those are two pretty gappy candles right there.
Yeah, they are.
On prices.
We are getting a little bit more of a rally today. I would say, if you're watching bonds and don't want to look at futures or anything like that, TLT does have a dividend on December 2nd, but that's a while away. Short term, keep an eye on TLT above $90. And then IEF is the other one. That's the 7 to 10 year. Keep an eye on that one above like $90, $92. We break below those levels, and I think that's the level. Options have become, stocks are now the tail of the market. One of the reasons why Flash 10 works so well is that options are now the dog. Stocks are the tail. However, the bond market went to the store, bought the dog, and is holding the leash.
Yeah. All
right. So
I mean, you look at it though too. Is you look at the amazing performance.
Let me be very clear. No puppy mills. Go to a good breeder or adopt from a shelter, a rescue dog. Don't go to a puppy mill. So anyway, sorry.
Oh, it's okay.
I'm pulling my Bob Barker. Spade new to your pets, folks.
I would just say there, just looking at that chart, is stocks have done well on this kind of rate sort of sell off here. As rates went back to 4.5 or whatever, like clipped up a little bit. It'll be interesting to see if clearly there is people voted for a little less government, right? Trump ran on that. Like, we got to get Musk in there and square with things away. Who knows if that even any dent will make it. And I think maybe the bond market is reacting to that, possible, which I think would benefit, I think that would, help having the deficit kind of some kind of process to attack it. At least for now, the bond market is liking what it sees after it basically pretty much was slapping the government the entire way down through the summertime. And again, we'll see. We got a little trade on and trading desk from Mr. Sebastian yesterday, which might pay us a couple of shekels today. So
yeah.
So this is the situation we find now. It's like there will be some. I feel like there will be some euphoria Christmas, mostly because, as you said, the whole last 2 months is over.
Yeah.
It's like it's over. We have a winner. It was pretty clear, and now let's move forward. And all the stuff you're hearing is more growth oriented, more positive. At least coming from the new team that's moving in. So those are good things.
All right. Well, Andrew, I do want to talk about some potential. I want to circle back on some election winners and losers, but before that, I just want to talk about the fact that, I think Donald Trump is going to have to get rid of Trump Force One because he's going back to Air Force One.
Right.
But what he should really do is get Andrew Force One so that he can get a ride in Andrew's trading vehicle.
He needs new transportation.
Yes. In this section, Andrew's going to walk through what he's looking and how he's looking to trade this week. And I am just going to go get myself a little bit of coffee. Take it away, Andrew.
All right. Hey, everybody. How you doing? So I think we have a simple chart to put up. Trading vehicle is pretty easy this week. Where Mark was talking about, did I send you the right? Oh, you know what? Maybe I sent you. I'm going to have to share my screen with you. I don't know if I sent you the right thing. Hold on. Kind of. Oh no. Oh, that is the right thing. You know what? It's funny. Here, I'll bring it up here and I'll share my screen really fast. All righty here. Nothing like live TV. All right, there we go. So Mark brought up the VIX, how VIX acted, and again, we saw this, since very, probably here middle September, we saw a low tick in VIX 15. We're now below that, and at this point, how does volatility act? And in general, the more certainty the market sees, the lower the realized vol gets, and the more what I would call sort of stair step stocks take. They meander up in a, up a little today, up a little tomorrow. News comes, they sell off a little bit, but you have a much lower realized volatility, what we call realized vol, basically how the S&P 500 is traded. And what I want you to see here, this huge gap down in VIX, that's a large number. Now, Mark, I think, called it 100%. The fact that we had a winner, there's huge relief. In general, the market sees that. It's looking forward, looking at volatility forward. So now we're at a point where we are now at about the pre-election lows, about as low as vol can be when the election was still being contested, at least in the media, and, when we're looking to vote. So we have that low basically set in. That's where we are right now. I would expect VIX to break those lows today. Again, anything could happen, gosh knows. But for now, that's what I see there. Now you have to look back and say, okay, well, where can volatility go? So we have a here's the last 6 months. Now here is obviously the August 5th, but with the election winding down, we now have, all right, so what you could call this was sort of the election uncertainty cycle here. Now this was all about the unwind, the carry bomb, and you could see once everybody figured out it wasn't going to be disastrous, we traded here. So basically, as long as the election was still being, again, contested, we set in a low for vol that was around 1455. Now that the election is over, we're now moving to a new, what I would call a new vol regime, a new phase. So volatilities we were seeing at the beginning of the year when VIX can get down into the 11 handle, 12 handle, now are back in play. Because as long as, let's just say what has been, and we're now looking forward, right? Most of the earnings are out. Christmas is coming, all that kind of stuff. Now you have to see what that bid for volatility is going to be. Mark was right to point out the bond market is giving some nerves, but if the rates kind of stabilize, bonds stabilize, that generally adds more certainty to the market, which is a lower VIX right now. If you're looking at something SPX volatility, 30-day straddle is like $160. Now, we've obviously had that $160 move already over the last couple of days. So you've had the big gap. We've hit 6,000. Now finding new levels generally takes time. We go up, we go down, and that generally is vol crushing. So my guess, we would break a new low in VIX. So the trading vehicle for me is you buy November puts or December puts in VIX. Relatively simple, 15s, 14s, something like that. I do own some already, for full disclosure. So, and you see kind of how we settle in to what will be a new market phase, right? Because one regime is leaving, the Biden administration leaving, new regime coming in. You'll start to see some, information come out. The more things are clear as to what they're doing, will add generally more certainty to the market. And again, where the agenda is going to be. And then again, VIX can now, or volatility can make, essentially new lows. So you have sort of this pre-regime here when the election was sort of too far off to really get into the volatility. And then it started getting priced once now the election was into view. And then Biden left, Harris stepped in, that added some uncertainty. We saw the vol regime we got. And now you can see the relief after the election. So it's following pretty much what the market does. VIX is a good, they call it the fear gauge, but it's really an indication of how much certainty traders feel. And that's where we are, I think, and that's where we are right now. So the big question I look for is, how fast is there confidence to get to those lower levels? Generally, once we're in zone 2, like the second quartile of volatility, like the 12 handle is the first quartile of vol for VIX. And like, can we get there before Thanksgiving? If there's really, we can't get there if SPX keeps rallying 1.5% a day. VIX will not go lower. You need the market to get into what I would call, a sort of a normal state. Realized vol and SPX drops to around, 6-7%. You don't have a lot of action. The market kind of goes up and down. We're back to a stock picker's market, and SPX kind of meanders up. And I think that's what we're settling into the end of the year from what is known right now. So I think you could see lower VIX numbers. We could get back into sort of a more full range of where VIX can go, at least down into the 12s, maybe the 11s. We have to have some sustained lower volatility. But as a reminder here, so we've had 2 huge days of moves. I mean, these are massive, massive candles. Clearly, you can tell. And what that has done is those 2 days, now that they are in the market and filtered, we're still averaging a 10% realized volatility in SPX, even with those days in the market. And again, now that we've had that gap, I would expect realized vol to start to normalize a little bit. So you have, with the 2 huge days, we're now at a 13 realized vol for 30 days, and 10-day volatility moved to 18%. You're already seeing volatilities starting to move below that. So I would expect, again, vol to go lower, to make new lows. So as much as people want to fade the rally and think there's no way we can keep going up, I think that might be a hard nut, and volatility will give you a clue to see if we keep sort of this good time upside rolling. And that's the trading vehicle for today, buying some VIX puts, 15s, 14s, 13s, which would have been a river of misery this summer. A long river of misery this summer.
Yes. Now, and folks, we'll get to what we think the market's going to do in a second. I want to remind you, if you're not a member of Power Moves, you can sign up. You get Frank's thoughts and about the market, and thoughts about what's going on in Washington, D.C., all the decisions making a couple times a week. Plus, you'll get access to Andrew and Frank's special presentation this Wednesday. It's a private event for subscribers only. You have to be a subscriber to Frank's newsletter. You can do that by clicking the link here on our at OptionPit, or just go to optionpit.com/power-moves, and you can see and sign up for his newsletter there. Andrew, as we head into the market open, S&P futures are sitting exactly at 6,000. NASDAQ futures are down a little bit, down about 0.25%. VIX futures are down about a nickel. What do you think is going to happen today?
I like your, you remember when you say the midday meander?
Yeah.
You know, when you talk about midday meander,
Mm-hmm.
I think traders are going to be like, okay, it's 6,000. It's 6,000. It's 6,000. You know, they're going to keep dancing around the number until they're comfortable with the number.
Yeah.
And then they'll go above it.
I think you're going to get a midday meander. I think we'll melt up, and you're going to see the S&P maybe not close above 6,000, but I think we will break 6,000 a day at some point, and it will make and it'll end up somewhere in the range of 0.25 to 0.4% up today. So I'm not looking for anything exciting. Maybe a mostly flattish NASDAQ. I'd be looking to fade NVIDIA next week, just a little bit on the Dow news. That's what I've got.
Oh, and get long Intel.
And I do like long Intel. Getting kicked out of the Dow Jones is also bullish. I forgot about that. Yeah.
Yep.
All right, folks. Well, it is 9:11, and we are about to turn into a pumpkin. So we'll be back next week at 8:30 a.m. Eastern time, as we are every week. Don't worry, Licia J. Leslie, the Queen of the Candles, will be back. So for Andrew T. Giovinazzi, the Viking of Volatility, the Vicar of the VIX, the woodworking option trader, I am Mark Sebastian. I am your only option. Have a wonderful Friday trading day and a great, great weekend, everybody. We'll see you soon.
Have a good one.
You know how the financial world goes. Here comes the buzzkill. Please make sure to take some time to read this boring disclaimer. We will owe you one.